All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Wills, and I'm the VP of Professional Services for Nortec Communications. And today we're going to talk specifically about the cost of Office 365 versus maintaining an on-premise Exchange server. This is really geared toward smaller customers, but this can be scaled as well. The presentation that I'm going to show you is based on some of the cost comparisons that I've been doing lately for some of our customers. And I expect this is going to be a short presentation, probably about 20 minutes, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end. As we go along, if you have questions, you can just speak up or you can IM it, and Allison will relay that so that we can address any questions as we go along. So when I first started doing the comparisons, I was actually a little bit surprised at what I found when I started, doing the math and really writing it down. And especially, when you consider that, not just the cost of the Exchange, but all of the extra functionality that you get with Office 365 in addition to Exchange. The features like Link for instant messaging are, basically just a checkbox instead of installing a whole another set of servers. And, you won't have to deal with any of your upgrades of your servers or anything like that anymore because it's all done, in the background. And in fact, the last time we did our upgrade, the last time we had our system upgraded in the background, we didn't notice anything other than the email saying that the upgrade was underway and that it was complete. So I've got a few scenarios that we're going to be looking at in detail today. And if these don't fit your organization specifically, I would encourage you to contact your Nortec sales rep. And we can put together a comparison that's specific to your company free of charge to help with your decision process. Let's get started. So the decision we're trying to make here is on-premise or cloud. And in this case, it's Exchange on-premise or Office 365, which is leveraging Exchange Online. So with an on-premise system, your company is going to be responsible for maintaining the servers, maintaining the licensing, everything that's required to keep that solution up and running. And in the examples that I included in this presentation, all of the costs for labor are reflected as outsourced costs. And even if you do manage it all in-house, I think it's important to realize that there's costs for doing it that way as well. And either you have a dedicated person to manage Exchange or somebody is being diverted from other initiatives to manage Exchange as kind of a secondary duty. So kind of keep that in mind as we go through. With a cloud-based solution, someone else is going to be responsible for managing all of that infrastructure, the backups, the patching, all that stuff, and you're basically just paying for the monthly subscription. Now, this has major advantages for you because you're freeing up resources to work on other important and probably more interesting projects, and nobody's going to have to stay up late at night installing patches and rebooting servers and all that happy stuff. Now, before we get into actual numbers, I have to throw in a few disclaimers here. First, the pricing is current as of June 25, and I actually pulled this just yesterday. And also, it's important to note that if your organization is nonprofit, there's steep discounts that are given to nonprofits in pricing for 365, and those are not reflected here. Also, the prices that are shown here are estimates, so we can easily provide you more accurate pricing. Just request it, and we can get that for you. So if you want to think about these as like budgetary estimates, that's okay. But if you want to see, what exactly it's going to cost your organization, just get with your sales rep and we can put together a specific quote. When we look at Office 365, it's important for us to develop an accurate user profile. And basically what I mean by that is that some of your users are not going to require all of the functionality that's offered at a specific plan level. And if they don't, and you can ratchet them back to a lower plan level license, you can save a lot of money. And as you move up, obviously it's going to cost more. So giving users only the level that they need is a real good way to control costs. Actually, one more point on this. So with regard to the the different levels, actually, let me just clarify one point. So the users are assigned licenses in the Office 365 portal, and this means that you can mix and match them. So basically, when you assign a license to each user, it just pulls from the pool that you've purchased, and it does go down to that granular of a level. So not everybody has to be on the same level. Okay, and this is showing kind of a feature comparison between the E1 plan and the E3 plan. And these are two of the different licensing levels, and these are the ones that I've actually used for the examples in this presentation. So I just want to be clear on what's available at each of those levels. And the biggest difference that you're going to notice on this page between the E1 and E3 levels of licensing is the inclusion of the desktop versions of Office with the E3 plan. And it's important to note that this is also going to include any upgrades to the software while you're still paying for the subscription. So if Microsoft comes out with a new version of Office while you're still under subscription, you're entitled to it. You just install it and use it.
Hey, Kevin, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Allison.
I think I might have lost Kevin.
Let me look. He's on here. Hold on a second, let me fix it for him.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Okay, I can't hear him.
No, I can't.
Allison, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry, where did I lose you?
About a minute ago.
Okay, so what was the last thing you heard me say?
You were discussing the chart and the two different plans, the E1 and the E3.
Okay. Well, most important thing on this slide is that the desktop version of the Office application is included with the E3 plan, and it's not with the E1. So that's one important consideration. And when we get to the bottom of the list here, we can start to see more of the differences between the E1 plan and the E3 plan. The Office Online, which is essentially the Office applications that can be run from any web browser, is available in both. But the mobile apps, which are apps running from a device like a smartphone or an iPad, are only available for the E3 plan users. And some of the more advanced messaging functions are also only available with the E3 plan. And these are mostly functions that would require an enterprise client access license for an Exchange on-premise installation. And it's stuff like the legal hold, the archiving, and things like that. So any questions on the features? No? Okay. In addition to the E1 and the E3 licenses, I also wanted to touch briefly on two other types of licenses, and these are options that are available at a lower cost, but some of the features are going to be removed. And the first one I wanted to touch on is the Small Business Premium license. This one is limited to 25 users. And it's very important, that limitation, because if you ever exceed the 25 users, you need to add more than 25, you're going to have to change plans. And then in terms of limitations, you can't use your Active Directory logon for a Small Business Premium. There's no Active Directory integration. And also there's no Yammer. And if you don't know what the Yammer is, basically it's like a Facebook, social networking site, but it's specific to your business. So you would just use it, within your business. That's unavailable with the Small Business Premium as well. And like the E1, there's also not going to be any advanced email functions, all that legal hold, archiving, the IRM, the information rights management. All of that is unavailable. But you do get the desktop version of Office, which is a plus. And Microsoft is selling the small business premium at $12.50 per user per month. So it's definitely cheaper than the E3 plan. The second one I wanted to point out is the mid-sized business license. And this one costs more than the small business license, but it's less than the E3. And it has most of the E3 plan functionality, except it doesn't have the Yammer or, again, the advanced email functions. And it's also limited to 300 users. So if you exceed 300 users, you have to move to an E plan. And these are $15 per user per month. So hopefully this gives you some idea of the differences between the types of the licenses. I know this has been kind of a super quick overview. Just given the time available, we want to have some time for questions at the end, and you can ask some specific questions. But if you don't get your questions answered here, please contact your Nortec sales rep, and we can give you more detail or even demo it for you. Any questions on the small business or mid-sized business licenses? No? Okay. All right, let's jump into the examples. So the first example I've got for you is 25 users on the E3 plan. And I also included in the estimate outsourced messaging management, which is a Nortec specific offering. And this gives you monthly reporting, performance, security, and utilization analysis. And we also perform customer advocacy. Basically, we manage all of the tickets that go into Microsoft so that you don't have to manage that stuff. We just maintain the contact with them. Also, as I go through this, I want to point out that we're showing the pricing for Exchange on-premise only. So it's not really apples to apples because you're actually getting a lot more with Office 365. You get that OneDrive, the Link Online, the SharePoint Online. Basically, it's just all that stuff is just icing on the cake because when we go through the pricing, you'll see that even just the Exchange piece, the pricing is compelling. So there's one-time costs for doing the migration to Office 365, or actually if you're going to even upgrade it internally. And this is for the 25 user migration, and we've got 25 licenses of the Office Professional Plus. And when you look at this table, you can see that almost half of that cost is tied up in the Office licenses. The licenses are about $500 a piece for Professional Plus. It's expensive software. But as an Office 365 subscriber, you don't have to purchase it. You just install the latest version, whatever that is, and use that. You also get to, with the Office 365, you also get the ability to install Office on other devices, like you could put it on a home computer or a tablet. You get 5 licenses per user. And then on the 365 side, the one-time costs are really low. Basically, you're just paying the migration costs, and then you start, paying your monthly subscription fees. And this is kind of nice because that initial outlay is a lot less painful. Okay, so with the one-time costs out of the way here for this example, let's look at what the recurring costs are going to look like. And we've got a few things to look at here. So the first is the Exchange support, and the number is based on someone coming to work on your Exchange server. This is for the on-premise. Someone coming to work on your Exchange server 1/2 of a day per month. And with patching, troubleshooting, general health checking, this is a fairly conservative number. Also, the antivirus is typically going to be sold as an annual contract. So even for on-premise, this is going to show up as a recurring cost. On the 365 side, there's 2 numbers. The first is the annual cost for Office 365, and it's shown here as a full year, but it's actually billed monthly. And the second is the Nortec Messaging Management Service, which I mentioned previously. Okay, and I've got also this is a graphical representation of the cost for the 5 years. And I picked 5 years because at that point, the current version of Exchange, even if you installed it, right when it came out, after 5 years, the current version of Exchange is going to be out of mainstream support. And the hardware is going to be also out of support unless you've purchased some sort of extended warranty. So basically, after 5 years, you're going to be due for an upgrade, and the cycle starts over again. Now going across, you can see that the annual costs are very similar, but the initial costs of doing the upgrade or the installation are going to carry all the way across. And then, again, as you get to the end of that 5 years, it's going to start all over again. So let's look at the next example. Now this one is an example where we've got field users and they don't need the desktop version of Office. And thinking back over the comparison that we went over earlier, remember that the Office Professional Plus desktop license, that's one of the major differentiators there between the two. So these guys are not going to need that. That's why we're able to give them an E1 plan. So for one-time costs, you can see that the Professional Plus licenses have been removed, and the Client Access license has been changed to a standard license. That's the third line down there. It's a standard CAL instead of an enterprise. And this is because the standard CAL provides similar functionality to the E1 plan. Everything else is going to remain the same, including the migration cost, because the migration is going to have to be performed either way. So with the recurring costs, other than the subscription fees, the recurring costs are going to be similar between the E1 plan and the E3. And actually, if you look at the on-prem side, the costs are identical, because what we've called out here is really the minimum infrastructure that's required to support Exchange on-premise. Okay, let's look at the 5-year picture for this. Okay, so you might notice that the overall cost is even more disparate between the on-prem and 365 than it was with the E3 license. And this is really because the minimum infrastructure requirement is the same. You have to have a server there, and it has to be supported regardless. And this really goes back to what we talked about initially about understanding the features of each plan and buying right-sized plans for each user. And because you can control your costs simply by purchasing and assigning the correct plan to each individual user, you can save a lot of cost. Okay, and I've got one more example for you, and this one is going to be a hybrid of E3 and E1, and this will show you what it's like if you have a mix of users. So we've got 25 users on E1 plan, and we've got 25 users on E3. And then everything else, all the messaging management, all that is going to remain the same as the previous examples. The one-time costs are going to be similar to the previous examples. You'll notice that I've included 25 Office licenses, and that's basically to compare with the E3 plan users. So we don't have all 50 with the Office, just 25. Also, the migration costs are going to be slightly higher for both examples, and this is really just due to the number of users that we have to migrate. It's basically double what it was before in terms of the number of users. You can also see that the CALs are listed 25 for enterprise for the E3 comparison and 25 for the standard for the E1 comparison. Let's look at the recurring costs here. In this table, I split out the E1 plan and the E3 plan user subscription fees, and also the support and the management have been increased to account for those additional users, and it's actually a pretty modest increase, really. Let's take a look at what this looks like over 5 years for the hybrid. And again, we can see that Office 365 is going to come out ahead. We're talking about here too just the Exchange functionality. So when we're talking about the on-premise example that we're comparing against, we're not getting all of the other great things like the OneDrive, the SharePoint, the Link, and so on. So if you're facing an upgrade or an Exchange installation at this point, I would strongly urge you to consider to move to Office 365 in the cloud, at least as an option. And this right here isn't exactly related to Office 365. It's a separate service, but it's another offering that Nortec has with regards to desktop management, so I wanted to bring that up. And basically, we provide asset inventory, the monthly reporting of your desktop status, like patch status and all that, unlimited remote Professional Services, and we do performance security analysis, and that's all done at a fixed cost per desktop. So if you're looking for a solution around that, let our sales team know, and we can demo it for you, give you some example reports and all that. I just want to throw that out there in case that's something that you're looking at. Okay, and that concludes the presentation portion of this. Does anybody have any questions about what you saw? Everybody's rushing off to see the game. Okay. Well, I know sometimes people, have questions they don't want to raise in the group, and that's fine. If you do have questions, please call your Nortec rep or George Hammerschmidt, and his information's up on the screen right now. Thank you everybody for joining the webinar. I hope that this has, helped you understand a little bit, or at least give you an introduction to, the real cost of the on-prem versus Office 365. And if there's anything else that we can do to help you, with your decision process, please let us know. And thanks everyone for joining.